The days following the great battle were tense, but filled with quiet determination. Ryan and Mara had earned the Queen's respect, and the alien commanders now treated them with cautious trust. Yet the humans knew that earning respect in this civilization was only the beginning. True influence required consistency, insight, and the ability to handle challenges that could appear without warning. One morning, the palace's sensors detected unusual activity in the nearby star system. A group of ships unaligned with the Queen's empire had entered the system and were orbiting an uninhabited planet. Their movements were precise, almost deliberate, but there were no signs of aggression. Yet the Queen called Ryan and Mara to the council chamber immediately. "You have proven yourselves in battle," she said, "but now I must ask you to help in matters of diplomacy and reconnaissance. This fleet is unknown, but I suspect their intentions are not peaceful. Humans, your insight is needed." Ryan and Mara examined the data. "Their ships are advanced," Mara said. "Not like the previous enemy fleet, but their formations suggest coordination and intelligence. We need more information before we act." Ryan nodded. "You can propose a plan to observe, gather intelligence, and if necessary, influence their decisions without open conflict. Sometimes the best strategy is to prevent a threat from escalating rather than confronting it head-on." The Queen considered this. "Your perspective is valuable. Proceed with caution. Do not underestimate them, but do not act rashly." The humans worked quickly. They suggested sending a few fast, lightly armed observation vessels to monitor the unknown fleet. These vessels could maintain distance, record movement patterns, and attempt to intercept communications. The alien commanders were skeptical. Small, lightly armed ships against unknown opponents seemed reckless, but the Queen approved the humans' plan. Within hours, the observation fleet was deployed, with Ryan and Mara overseeing operations. From the palace, as data streamed in, the humans began to notice patterns. The unknown fleet had a hierarchy similar to the previous attackers, with central command points coordinating movements. However, their behavior was cautious, almost hesitant, as if aware of being observed. Mara studied the projections. "They're testing the planet's defenses. Not attacking yet, but gathering information. If we act cleverly, we can influence their perception without firing a single shot." Ryan agreed. "We should use deception and information. Create the impression that the planet is well defended, that any aggression would be costly. Humans often turn advantage through intelligence rather than force." They suggested a strategy to the Queen and her advisors. Holographic projections displayed phantom units, sensor echoes of ships that did not exist, and signals designed to exaggerate defensive strength. Alien fleet commanders were nervous but followed the plan, trusting the humans' judgment. Within hours, the unknown fleet changed its formation. They moved more cautiously, avoiding certain regions of space, as if intimidated by invisible forces. Ryan smiled quietly. "It's working. They think the planet is stronger than it is. Fear of loss is as powerful as actual strength." Queen watched intently. "You have done it again. Humans. You understand not only strategy, but the mind of the opponent." "That is remarkable," Mara added. "We learn quickly by observation. And we know that intelligence can influence outcomes without confrontation. Sometimes survival is in what is not seen, rather than what is done openly." While the fleet remained cautious, the humans continued analyzing patterns. They discovered that the unknown force relied heavily on a specific communication network. Disrupting it subtly could slow them further without causing direct conflict. Ryan proposed a non-destructive interference, a method to block or confuse their signals temporarily. Mara calculated precise timings and patterns that would create maximum uncertainty. The operation was executed flawlessly. Signals jammed intermittently, creating confusion in the fleet's coordination. They hesitated, shifted formations, and even moved backward from the planet. Alien commanders were astonished. "It is as if the humans are inside their minds," one whispered. The Queen nodded. "They are using intelligence, not brute force. This is what sets humans apart. You do not rely solely on strength. yet you shape events decisively. Past and the human strategy continued to control the situation. The unknown fleet eventually retreated, leaving the system without confrontation. Ryan and Mara analyzed their data carefully, understanding every movement, reaction, and decision. The humans' influence had prevented a potential conflict without. A single shot fired a demonstration of strategic mastery. The Queen summoned them afterward. You have done what few could. You have prevented war, saved countless lives, and proven that humans are not to be underestimated. Your methods are unconventional, yet highly effective. Ryan bowed slightly. We only did what we could with the knowledge we have. The understanding, observation, and adaptation often achieve more than direct force. Mara added, collaboration is also key. We combined human adaptability with your people's precision and technology. That made the outcome possible. The Queen's expression softened. I have learned from you as well, humans. You are unpredictable, but you are also reliable in ways that many species are not. Your presence has changed how I think about strategy, diplomacy, and even governance. The humans had not only prevented conflict, but had also gained profound insight into the alien empire. They now understood political hierarchies, communication methods, and cultural nuances better than any outsider could. Their presence was becoming essential not only in military strategy, but in diplomacy, governance, and societal influence. One evening, Ryan and Mara walked through the palace's gardens, reflecting on recent events. We've changed how they see us, Mara said. We started as outsiders, observers. How they rely on our judgment. Ryan nodded. Humans have always had a way of turning disadvantage into opportunity. Here it's no different. We're not stronger in brute force, but we are adaptable, clever, and willing to take calculated risks. That is what makes us valuable. The Queen approached, her presence commanding but calm. Humans, she said, I have come to rely on your insight. Today you have shown that survival depends not just on technology, but on understanding and intelligence. You see possibilities where others see threats. That is rare. Ryan bowed. We are honored to serve. Our goal is not conquest, but cooperation, understanding, and protection. Every action we take is meant to preserve life and stability, Mara added, and to learn. Every situation teaches us something new. That knowledge can prevent future disasters not just for your civilization, but for many. The Queen nodded, thoughtfully. Humans, your actions today may be remembered for generations. You have prevented war, influenced decisions, and shown that intellect can surpass raw power. I have underestimated your species before, but no longer. The following days were filled with preparations for potential challenges. Ryan and Mara continued analyzing intelligence, predicting movements of unknown forces, and advising the Queen and her commanders. Their insight became crucial in shaping policies and defensive measures. They also began mentoring select advisors and commanders, sharing human methods of observation, adaptation, and strategic thinking. Slowly, the alien empire's approach to problem-solving began to incorporate human logic and flexibility. The Queen watched closely, fascinated by how her civilization was changing under human influence. One afternoon, Ryan and Mara were summoned to the Queen's inner chamber. She regarded them with seriousness. Humans, your presence here is unlike any other species I have encountered. You adapt, you learn, and you act decisively. I must ask you, what is your purpose? To aid, to survive, or to dominate? And met her gaze evenly. Our purpose is to help where we can, to survive where we must, and to act wisely in every situation. We seek understanding, cooperation, and the chance to prove our species' worth. We do not seek domination. Our strength is in adaptability, intelligence, and courage. The Queen considered this, then nodded slowly. You speak with clarity. Perhaps that is why you are effective. You are not driven by pride, fear, or desire for power. You act with purpose and thoughtfulness. That is rare, Mara added, and humans learn quickly. We observe, adapt, and grow. That allows us to succeed in ways that others might not expect. The queen smiled faintly. Indeed, you have changed my perception of humanity entirely. You are more than capable. You are extraordinary. As the sun set over the crystal towers, the humans reflected on the journey so far. They had faced war, navigated a complex alien court, prevented unrest, and neutralized an unknown threat. They had earned the Queen's trust, influenced her advisors, and begun reshaping the Empire's approach to strategy and diplomacy. They had started as outsiders, underestimated and dismissed. Now they were essential. Their presence had not only altered events, but it also changed the way an entire civilization viewed them. Humans were clever, adaptable, capable of achieving the extraordinary. And in that quiet moment, as the stars glimmered above the alien planet, Ryan and Mara understood something profound. Humans did not need to be the strongest, the fastest, or the most powerful. They needed only to be intelligent, adaptable, and willing to act when others hesitated. That was enough to shape outcomes, influence civilizations. The Queen's starship moved through the void of space like a living being, sleek and silent. Rylan followed Serafina through long corridors that shimmered with subtle lights, his mind still reeling from everything that had happened. He had never imagined stepping onto a ship like this, let alone being called a mate by the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Every step he took made the reality of his situation sink deeper. He was no longer just a mechanic on a remote station. He was part of something far bigger than himself. Serafina led him to a large observation deck. The walls were transparent, showing the endless stretch of stars beyond. Planets, moons, and distant nebulae drifted by as the ship moved faster than any vessel Rylan had ever seen. The view was breathtaking, but he barely noticed it. His mind kept circling back to her words, "You are my mate." The phrase repeated itself like a heartbeat. It's impossible to ignore. "You must be wondering why I chose you," Serafina said, her voice calm but firm. "Many would say a human is unworthy. Some would call it foolish. But I do not choose based on appearances, power, or politics. I choose based on qualities that matter, qualities that only a human possesses naturally." Rylan swallowed hard. Qualities? Like what? Courage, ingenuity, empathy, the ability to adapt and survive, she said. Your kind can form connections that others cannot. You can see truth where others see only lies. You can act decisively, even when the outcome is uncertain. That is why I chose you. Rylan shook his head. I fix engines and ships. That's all I've ever done. I'm not special. I'm not a hero. Seraphine's eyes softened slightly. Perhaps not yet. But the moment you step into this role, you begin to grow into it. The galaxy is dangerous. Threats wait in every shadow. I cannot face them alone. I need a partner who can think, adapt, and act. That partner is you. He stared at her, overwhelmed. The weight of her words pressed on him like a heavy gravity. He had always believed humans were small, weak, and insignificant in a galaxy ruled by stronger, longer-lived species. Yet here was the most magnificent being he had ever seen, saying that he, ordinary human, was exactly what she needed. Before he could respond, alarms sounded. Red lights pulsed along the walls, and a low hum filled the ship. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a nearby colony under attack. Small ships were firing on the planet's surface, and explosions dotted the cities below. Civilians were fleeing, their transports damaged or destroyed. Serafina moved immediately, her entire presence shifting from regal calm to focused command. This is the colony of Deverin, she said. They are under attack by a rogue fleet. We must act quickly. Rylan's heart raced. Wait, what can I do? I've never been in a battle like this. You will observe and learn, she said. But more than that, I need to see how you handle pressure. Courage is proven in moments like these. Follow my lead and trust yourself. The starship surged forward, engines glowing with energy that bent the light around them. Rylan clutched a railing, still unaccustomed to the sensation of faster-than-light travel. As the stars stretched into long streaks, He tried to calm himself. He had fixed engines under pressure, had solved impossible problems, but this was different. Lives were at stake. A queen, the ruler of 1,000,000 worlds, was counting on him. When they emerged from faster-than-light travel, the sight before them was chaotic. The rogue fleet was larger than expected, and their attacks were precise. Colony's defenses were struggling to hold them back, and civilian transports floated helplessly in the crossfire. Rylan felt a pang of fear, but Seraphine's calm presence steadied him. "Focus," she said. "Observe the enemy patterns. Notice their weaknesses. Humans are excellent at improvisation. Use that." Ella nodded, gripping the console before him. He studied the fleet through the holographic interface, noting the patterns of the attacking ships. They moved with rigid precision, relying on brute force and predictable tactics. An idea sparked in his mind. "If we create a diversion here," he began, pointing at a cluster of ships, "then the colony's defenses can flank them from that angle." Seraphine's eyes widened slightly. "Explain." Rylan took a deep breath. "The fleet expects a frontal assault. If we redirect their attention, we can use smaller ships to hit them from behind. They won't expect it." A smile flickered on Seraphine's face. A bold plan, unorthodox, very human. She turned to the bridge crew. "Follow his suggestion. Execute." Within moments, the ship's systems hummed with activity. Rylan guided smaller assault drones, coordinating with the colony's defense fleet. He felt a surge of adrenaline as his plan unfolded. The rogue ships were caught off guard, their formation disrupted. Explosions lit up the sky, but the colony's defenses held firm. Civilians were evacuated, and the enemy began to retreat. Rylan's heart pounded as he watched the chaos subside. He had just helped turn the tide of a battle, and the Queen had trusted him to do it. Serafina approached him, her expression unreadable but proud. "You handled yourself well," she said. "I doubted nothing in choosing you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. You have proven that you possess it." Rylan felt a flush of pride, but also a strange humility. He had acted instinctively, using what he knew best, yet somehow it had worked. The Queen, who commanded entire star systems, had trusted him enough to let him participate. He had not failed. As the rogue fleet fled into the distance, Serafina turned to him again. "Do you understand now why I chose you?" Rylan nodded. Slowly, I think I do. You need someone who can think, adapt, and act in ways that others might not. You need someone human." "Yes," she said, her voice softening. "And you must learn quickly. The galaxy is filled with threats. Not all will be visible. Not all will be fought with weapons. Sometimes the greatest danger is deception, politics, and fear. Humans can navigate that in ways other species cannot." Swallowed, realizing the truth of her words. He had always thought humans were insignificant, small in comparison to the grand civilizations around them. But here, in the presence of the most powerful queen, he understood that his kind's ingenuity and resilience could matter more than strength or longevity. The ship drifted into orbit above. The colony, the battle over, but the aftermath evident. Fires burned on the surface, but the civilians were safe. Thanks to the swift action of Seraphine's fleet and the plan Rylan had suggested. He stood at the observation deck, looking down at the world below, feeling a strange mix of pride and disbelief. Serafina joined him, standing silently. Her presence was comforting, yet commanding. "You must understand, Rylan," she said, "being my mate is not a title. It is a responsibility. You will face challenges, dangers, and scrutiny. Some will question you, some will resent you. You will not face them alone. I will be with you. And together, we can overcome anything." Rylan nodded, still processing. "Everything. I don't know if I'm ready. I've never been ready for something like this." "You will never feel completely ready," she said. "But courage is not about feeling ready. It is about taking the first step, even when you are afraid. You took that step today." For the first time, Rylan felt a sense of belonging. He was a human, small in the vast galaxy, but here with Serafina, he felt capable of greatness. Queen's faith in him gave him a strength he had never known. The rest of the journey to the next? System passed in a blur of lessons and observation. Serafina allowed him to explore the ship, meet the crew, and learn about the galaxy's political landscape. He discovered that being human came with advantages: quick thinking, empathy, and a perspective that others often overlooked. Every conversation, every decision, every glance taught him something new. He began to understand that his species' greatest strength was not physical power, but the ability to adapt, connect, and persevere. Yet, even as he learned, he could feel the whispers of skepticism and doubt from others. Not all the crew were welcoming. Some alien nobles and officers questioned why a human mechanic had been chosen. Their doubts were thinly veiled, their respect forced. Rylan ignored them as best he could, focusing on the Queen and the mission ahead. Every small success, every correct decision seemed to earn him a little more trust. One night, as the stars streaked by outside the observation deck, Serafina approached him quietly. "Do you understand what being my mate truly means?" she asked. Rylan hesitated. "I think it means trust, partnership, responsibility. But it's more than that, isn't it?" "Yes," she said softly. "It is also about growth. You will become more than you are now. You will face challenges that will test your courage, your mind, and your heart. And through it all, you will stand by my side not because of duty, but because of choice." Rylan looked out at the stars, feeling a strange calm. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something larger than himself. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous, but he had Seraphine's trust, and she had his. Together, they would face what was to come, and for the first time he allowed himself to imagine a future where he was not just a human mechanic, but a human who mattered to the galaxy and to the most magnificent queen in existence. The journey had only just begun, and already, Rylan knew his life would never be the same. The following days passed in a blur of training, observation, and unexpected surprises. Rylan had begun to understand that being the mate of Queen Serafina was not merely a title. It was a responsibility that demanded courage, wit, and adaptability. The starship moved through sectors of space teeming with trade routes, diplomatic stations, and isolated planets, each carrying its own dangers. Every day brought new lessons, and Rylan absorbed them eagerly. Though he often felt the weight of the Queen's expectations pressing on him, Serafina never allowed him to feel helpless. She encouraged him to participate in ship operations, tactical simulations, and diplomatic briefings. He learned how to read star maps, interpret alien communication protocols, and even manage the ship's energy systems. Though he struggled at first, Rylan's human instinct for problem-solving soon became apparent. Where alien species relied on tradition and rigid protocols, Rylan's mind worked fluidly, adapting and improvising. It was not long before Serafina noticed the subtle ways he improved efficiency, sometimes saving hours of effort with a single suggestion. One morning, as the ship glided through a colorful nebula, an alert sounded across the bridge. The sensors indicated a distress call from a remote mining colony on the edge of the system. The transmission was faint, filled with static, but the urgency was unmistakable. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "This colony's in trouble," she said. "We must investigate immediately." Rylan stepped closer to the console, examining the holographic display. "It looks like their defenses have been breached. But the signal is weak. Maybe a sabotage, maybe an attack. I can't tell for sure." "Then we must prepare for both possibilities," Serafina replied. "You will assist me in assessing the situation and planning a response." Rylan nodded, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline. He had faced a battle before, yes, but this was different. The colony was small, isolated, and the threat unknown. Every decision they made could mean life or death for hundreds of civilians. When they arrived, the view was chaotic. Small fires burned across the mining facilities, and defense drones were scattered, many damaged or destroyed. The rogue attackers had left the colony vulnerable, hoping to plunder its resources without resistance. Seraphine's fleet quickly established a protective perimeter. But the attackers were clever, using hit-and-run tactics and hidden positions among asteroids and debris. Rylan watched, analyzing their movements. They're not coordinated. A single unit, he said. They're improvising, but they rely on speed and surprise. If we can force them into predictable patterns, we can outmaneuver them. Serafina regarded him thoughtfully. Your human perspective is valuable. Proceed with your plan. He quickly organized small attack drones into teams, directing them to cut off escape routes and block ambush points. Then he coordinated with the colony's remaining defense systems, setting traps that relied on timing rather than firepower. The result was stunning. The attackers, expecting an easy target, found themselves outsmarted at every turn. They had ignored suddenly appeared, striking from unexpected angles. Mines they thought were cleared were triggered strategically. Ryland's plan worked, and the tide of the battle shifted. Amid the chaos, Ryland noticed a group of attackers attempting to flee with stolen resources. Without hesitation, he directed a drone squad to intercept them, calculating the trajectory and timing with precision. The drones cornered the enemy ships, forcing them to surrender. The colony's miners and workers stared in awe as the humans and drones recovered their stolen goods. Serafina approached him, her expression a mixture of pride and relief. You acted decisively and with foresight, she said. Many would panic in this situation, but you remained calm and strategic. This is why I chose you. Courage is necessary, but strategy makes courage effective. Ellen felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had not only contributed to the safety of the colony, but had proven to himself and to the Queen that he could rise to challenges far beyond his expectations. Later, as the colony's residents worked to repair damage and restore order, Ryland was allowed a moment to speak with them. They were surprised, even skeptical, to see a human among the Queen's entourage. Many had heard tales of the Queen's greatness, but few had imagined a human could be close to her. Ryland explained the battle and his role in simple terms, emphasizing teamwork and quick thinking. By the end of the conversation, the miners were not only grateful, but impressed, realizing that humans, often underestimated, could make a difference in critical moments. Back aboard the starship, Ryland found himself in a quiet corridor reflecting on the day's events. He had always believed humans were small and insignificant in a galaxy dominated by advanced species. Yet here his abilities, improvisation, quick thinking, and courage had saved lives. For the first time, he understood that his kind had unique strengths, and perhaps being human was more powerful than he had ever imagined. Serafina joined him quietly. You are learning quickly, she said, but challenges will grow more complex. The galaxy does not reward strength alone. It rewards understanding, adaptability, and the willingness to face danger with reason. Ryland looked at her, feeling a mix of respect and admiration. I want to be ready, he said, for you, for the Queen, and for the galaxy. I want to help in any way I can. Good, she replied, because you will be tested. Not all threats are obvious, and not all enemies wear armor or carry weapons. Some come in the form of politics, whispers, or betrayal. You must remain vigilant. Over the following weeks, Ryland continued his training and missions, each one more challenging than the last. He began to understand the complex web of alliances and rivalries that shaped the galaxy. Diplomacy was as dangerous as battle, and every decision could ripple across systems in ways few could predict. Humans were often underestimated in these situations, but Ryland found that his perspective allowed him to navigate tricky negotiations, diffuse tensions, and solve problems that others struggled with. One day, as they traveled through a sector known for piracy, the ship received a transmission from a nearby research station. The message was frantic, reporting that a group of raiders had captured valuable data and threatened to destroy the station if their demands were not met. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. We cannot allow vital information to fall into rogue hands. Prepare for immediate intervention. Ryland studied the transmission, noting the positions and movement of the raiders. If we approach from here, he said, pointing to a route on the holographic map, we can block their escape while minimizing risk to the station. The raiders won't expect a human to suggest this, so it gives us an advantage. Serafina regarded him with approval. Execute. Your plan? I will support you. The mission was tense. Rylan coordinated attack drones, managed ship energy distribution, and predicted the raiders' movements. His human intuition and ability to improvise allowed the Queen's fleet to outmaneuver the raiders. Recovering the stolen data without harming the station or its inhabitants, Seraphine's confidence in him grew with every successful mission. Despite the intensity of these experiences, Hélène began to form a deeper bond with the Queen. In private moments, she would explain her strategies, philosophies, and the responsibilities that weighed on her as the ruler of countless worlds. Hélène listened, fascinated by the breadth of her knowledge and the clarity of her vision. He began to understand that her power was not only in her ships or armies, but in her mind. Her ability to see the bigger picture, and her commitment to protect those under her care. One evening, as the ship sailed silently through a storm, Rylan found himself on the observation deck alone with Seraphina. The stars stretched endlessly around them, and a quiet calm filled the space. "Do you ever wonder," he asked hesitantly, "why a queen would choose someone like me?" Seraphina regarded him with a soft, steady gaze. "Because you are human," she said simply. "You see possibilities where others see limitations. You act with courage even when fear is present. You think independently yet can work with others. These qualities are rare. You complement me, and together we are stronger than the sum of our parts." Rylan nodded slowly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I'm learning," he said. "I want to be ready for whatever comes next." "You will be," she replied. "I will be at your side, guiding you when needed, trusting you when appropriate." That is what being mates means, not just connection, but partnership. Rylan realized then that being chosen as her mate was not about privilege or status. It was about trust, responsibility, and the ability to rise to challenges. It was about facing danger, making decisions, and proving that even a human could stand alongside the galaxy's most magnificent queen as the days passed. The bond between them grew stronger. Rylan learned not only about strategy and leadership, but also about patience, empathy, and understanding. Seraphina, in turn, began to rely on his insights and instincts, valuing his perspective in ways even her closest advisors could not. Together, they became a team human and queen-ready. To face the unpredictable and dangerous galaxy, Rylan understood that his journey had only just begun. The battles, missions, and lessons ahead would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But for the first time in his life, he felt capable. He was a human, yes, but humans had a unique strength, the ability to adapt, to endure, and to err. The galaxy had a rhythm of its own, a pulse that could be felt in the hum of starships and the distant glimmer of planets. For Rylan, life aboard Queen Seraphine's ship had become a whirlwind of lessons, missions, and unexpected challenges. He had begun to understand that being the Queen's mate was not just a title or honor, it was responsibility, risk, and constant vigilance. Every day brought new experiences, and each one tested his courage, his intellect, and his ability to adapt. The morning began with a diplomatic call. A neighboring system, the Varkan Confederacy, had requested an audience. Their ambassador was known for cunning and subtle manipulations, and Rylan sensed the tension even before he entered the room. Seraphina led him, her presence commanding respect and attention. The room was vast, filled with alien delegates who watched him curiously, some openly skeptical. "You will observe," Seraphina whispered, "but your perspective may be more valuable than you realize. Humans have a way of seeing truths others overlook." Rylan nodded, focusing on every word, every gesture, every subtle inflection of voice. The ambassador began with polite formalities, but soon the conversation turned toward accusations and threats, disguised as concerns about trade disputes and security issues. Rylan noticed patterns in their language, phrases repeated in ways meant to intimidate or confuse. He whispered his observations to Seraphina, who nodded subtly, using the information to counter the diplomat's strategies. At one point, Rylan stepped forward. "If I may," he said, his voice steady, though he felt the weight of 100 eyes on him. "The solutions being suggested may harm both our interests. Perhaps we can focus on mutual benefits instead. There are options here that prevent loss on either side." The room fell silent. Delegates murmured in disbelief at the human daring to speak before the queen. The ambassador's composure wavered for a moment. Seraphine's eyes met Ryland's, and he saw approval there, a subtle acknowledgement of his insight. She allowed him to continue, and together they navigated the negotiations, finding compromises that satisfied the Varkan delegates without sacrificing the queen's interests. Later, Ryland realized the significance of what had just occurred. The queen had trusted him to speak, to act, and to influence outcomes on a level far beyond what he had ever imagined. His human instincts, empathy, and perspective had provided solutions that others, bound by rigid traditions and hierarchy, might never have seen. He was beginning to understand the unique value humans brought to the galaxy. As the delegation departed, a subtle tension remained in the air. Some delegates were impressed, others wary, and whispers spread among the Varkan representatives. Ryland felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. Diplomacy, he realized, was as dangerous as battle. A single misstep could cost lives or ignite conflict, yet humans, with their adaptability and quick thinking, could navigate these treacherous waters effectively. The rest of the day passed with lessons in strategy and ship operations. Serafina allowed him to work with her commanders, observing fleet formations and coordinating drills. He discovered that his human perspective often provided clarity where others relied on assumptions or tradition. His observations led to small adjustments in training routines, energy management, and communication protocols. The crew began to see him not merely as a mechanic or a mate, but as a valued partner in critical operations. But not all aboard the ship were welcoming. Some alien officers and nobles whispered behind his back, questioning why a human had been chosen. They doubted his abilities and openly mocked his inexperience. Ryland ignored them as best he could, focusing on learning and contributing. Success, each correctly executed plan, earned him respect, though the skeptical whispers never fully disappeared. One evening, the ship received another distress signal, this time from a mining station on the edge of a contested system. Raiders had taken control, threatening the lives of miners and the station's valuable resources. Serafina immediately ordered the ship to full speed. Ryland, now more confident in his abilities, joined her on the bridge, analyzing the tactical data. The attackers are skilled, he observed. They know the station's defenses, and they're using stealth tactics. But they're relying on predictable patterns in their movement. If we can anticipate their path, we can trap them without putting the miners at risk. Serafina studied his calculations. Very well. You will coordinate the interception. I will provide support. Ryland's plan unfolded with precision. Using drones and small attack craft, they intercepted the raiders, cutting off escape routes and neutralizing threats while ensuring the miners remained safe. The operation was a success, and the station's resources were recovered without significant loss. Ryland felt a surge of pride, knowing he had contributed to the safety of countless lives. In the aftermath, Serafina spoke privately with him. Your instincts and perspective are invaluable, she said. You see possibilities where others see only obstacles. That is why I chose you. Humans are underestimated across the galaxy, but their minds, courage, and empathy are powerful tools. Ryland nodded, realizing how much he had grown. He was no longer the unsure mechanic from Varel Station. He had proven himself in battle, in diplomacy, and in leadership. Yet he also understood that his journey was far from over. The galaxy was unpredictable. New challenges awaited. As they continued their mission through contested sectors, Ryland began to notice subtle signs of political unrest. Certain factions whispered against the Queen, questioning her decision to take a human as her mate. Some openly plotted, believing they could exploit his inexperience. Serafina, ever aware, guided him through these intrigues, teaching him to recognize deception, hidden motives, and subtle manipulation. One evening, as they drifted near a star cluster known for pirate activity, a holographic message arrived. A local governor requested urgent assistance, claiming a rebellion was forming within his system. Serafina turned to Ryland. This is a test, she said. Observe and contribute. Your insight may prove critical. Ryland studied the data. The rebellion seemed orchestrated, with evidence of outside influence. Using his human intuition and logical reasoning, He identified inconsistencies in reports and patterns that suggested sabotage rather than spontaneous uprising. He presented his findings to Serafina, who adjusted their course to intercept potential threats before the rebellion escalated. When they arrived, Rylan helped coordinate a negotiation between the governor and rebel leaders. Using calm reasoning and clear communication, he diffused tension, revealing misinformation and preventing unnecessary bloodshed. Serafina watched with quiet approval as the human's natural empathy and adaptability brought resolution where brute force might have failed. Over the next few days, Rylan continued to prove himself in both strategy and diplomacy. He learned to anticipate moves, identify hidden motives, and act decisively. He also began to understand the deeper responsibilities of being Seraphine's mate. It was not merely about being by her side, it was about partnership, trust, and shared purpose. Together, they faced challenges that tested intellect, courage, and emotional strength. Yet, amidst these victories, whispers of dissent grew louder. Some alien nobles and officers viewed him as an intruder, someone unworthy of influence or respect. They conspired in private, plotting ways to undermine his credibility. Rylan was aware of the undercurrents, but did not allow them to distract him. Instead, he focused on learning, contributing, and supporting the Queen. Each time he succeeded, those who doubted him were forced to reconsider their assumptions. One night, as the ship sailed silently through an asteroid field, Serafina approached him on the observation deck. The stars reflected in her eyes, a reminder of the vast galaxy they navigated together. "Do you understand now why your presence is important?" she asked. Rylan nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm learning that being human, our way of thinking, our courage, our ability to adapt, can make a difference in ways I never imagined. I feel useful, and I want to continue growing to be ready for whatever comes next." Serafina smiled faintly. "You are more than useful. You are a partner. The galaxy may doubt humans, but I do not. Together, we will face threats, navigate intrigue, and protect countless lives. That is the power of our bond." Rylan felt a profound sense of purpose. He had begun as a simple mechanic, unsure of his place in the galaxy. Now he stood as a human capable of shaping events, influencing decisions, and standing alongside the most magnificent queen in existence. He understood that being her mate was not just about connection. It was about trust, responsibility, and shared strength. As the ship moved on through the endless void of stars, Rylan reflected on how far he had come. Each mission, each decision, each challenge had taught him something new. He had faced danger, navigated diplomacy, and proved that human ingenuity and courage could rival even the most advanced alien civilizations. He also understood that the galaxy was far from predictable. Threats would continue to arise. Rivals would plot, and dangers would test them in ways neither of them could foresee. But Rylan was ready. With Seraphine's guidance, trust, and partnership, he could face whatever lay ahead. He had grown into his role, not through titles or orders, but through courage, action, and the unique strengths of being human. For the first time, Rylan truly believed that humans could make a... The galaxy had a way of testing even the strongest bonds. And Rylan soon realized that being Queen Seraphine's mate was no exception. Though he had grown in skill, courage, and confidence, new challenges emerged, ones that tested not only his abilities but also his heart. The starship glided silently through the edge of a turbulent system. Reports had come in of mysterious disappearances, trading vessels vanishing without a trace, colonies reporting missing resources, and strange signals detected near asteroid belts. The Queen had decided they must investigate, as the pattern suggested more than mere piracy. Something or someone was organizing these attacks. It was likely dangerous. Rylan stood beside Serafina on the bridge, watching the holographic displays flicker with data. "The anomalies seem connected," he said. "The missing ships follow specific trade routes, and there's a pattern in the timing of attacks. Whoever is behind this knows the galaxy well." Serafina nodded. "You are correct. This is no ordinary pirate band. This is an organized force, likely seeking to destabilize trade and political alliances." I need your insight on how to approach them. Humans often see solutions where others only see obstacles. Ryland studied the displays, mapping possible ambush points and safe routes for their reconnaissance drones. We can set traps here, he said, pointing to a series of asteroid fields. If we use the natural terrain and draw them in, we can isolate the ships without risking civilian vessels. They won't expect a human mind to anticipate their tactics. Seraphine's eyes sparkled with approval. Do it, I trust your judgment. The operation was tense. Ryland coordinated the deployment of drones, calculated trajectories, and adjusted energy shields to respond to sudden attacks. He felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as unknown vessels appeared from the shadows, attempting to ambush them. But Ryland had predicted their moves with uncanny accuracy. The drones engaged swiftly, isolating enemy ships and forcing them into vulnerable positions. During the battle, one of the lead raider ships broke formation and targeted a civilian transport. Without thinking, Ryland took control of a small attack drone and intercepted the threat. The drone collided with the raider vessel, forcing it off course and preventing disaster. The action earned murmurs of respect from the ship's crew and even from some skeptical alien officers. Seraphine's voice broke through the coms, calm but firm. Excellent work, Ryland. Your instincts saved lives. That is why you are invaluable. After the skirmish, the starship continued its pursuit of the organized raiders. They discovered a hidden base in an asteroid belt, shielded from standard sensors. Serafina and Ryland studied the layout carefully. They rely on stealth and deception, Ryland noted. We can approach from above, but we need a diversion. Otherwise, they will detect us immediately. Serafina considered his plan. Then you will coordinate the diversion, lead it with precision. Ryland took a deep breath. This was more than observation. He was actively shaping the outcome of a high-stakes operation. He arranged a fleet of drones to simulate a frontal attack while the Queen's main forces would approach from behind. The deception worked perfectly. The raiders, expecting an assault from the drones, moved their defenses away from the real threat. Within moments, Seraphine's fleet struck the base, disabling shields and capturing critical assets without unnecessary destruction. As the operation concluded, Ryland felt a surge of pride. He had not only contributed to victory, but had also demonstrated the strength, ingenuity, and adaptability that humans could bring to the galaxy. Serafina approached him on the observation deck, her presence steady and commanding. You have grown significantly, she said. Not just in skill, but in judgment, foresight, and courage. Humans often underestimate themselves, yet your actions prove that your kind can alter the course of events across the galaxy. Alon shook his head. I act when I have. 2. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes are not born, they are forged, she said. We're learning quickly. Every decision, every action, every choice you make shapes not only your future, but the fate of those you protect. Even as he absorbed her words, Ryland sensed tension among the crew. Rumors of dissent had grown louder. Some officers and nobles resented the human influence on decisions, especially in tactical and diplomatic matters. They whispered that a Mechanican outsider should not hold such sway. Ryland ignored the whispers as best he could, focusing instead on learning, contributing, and supporting the Queen. The next challenge arrived without warning. Distress signal emanated from a diplomatic convoy traveling through a contested system. The convoy had been ambushed, and hostages were taken. The assailants demanded a ransom and threatened destruction if their demands were not met. Seraphine's expression hardened. We cannot allow this. Lives are at stake, and failure will embolden others. Ryland stepped forward. We need intelligence. First, rushing in blindly could put the hostages at risk. We should trace the communication signal, analyze their tactics, and plan a precise rescue operation. Serafina nodded. You are correct. Take the lead on the analysis. I will act based on your findings. Hours passed as Ryland worked with the ship's intelligence officers, piecing together fragments of data, intercepted transmissions, and behavioral patterns of the attackers. Slowly, a plan emerged. He identified likely locations for the hostages and predicted the attackers' movement based on their previous behavior. The Queen's fleet moved according to his strategy, coordinating. With drones and boarding teams, the rescue operation was tense and meticulous. Ryland's predictions proved accurate, allowing the team to neutralize threats efficiently and secure the hostages safely. Not a single civilian was harmed, and the attackers were captured or forced to flee. Seraphine's gaze held a mixture of pride and admiration. "Your insight saved lives," she said. "You acted with courage, precision, and clarity. That is why you are my mate." Ryland felt a swell of emotion. He had never imagined himself in such a position, able to influence outcomes, protect lives, and stand beside the most magnificent queen in the galaxy. Each mission reinforced his understanding of human potential, ingenuity, and courage. Yet challenges were never-ending. The galaxy held threats both visible and hidden, from ruthless pirates to political conspiracies. Ryland realized that his growth would never cease, and neither would the Queen's expectations. They were partners not only in action, but in vigilance, strategy, and the responsibility to protect countless lives in quieter moments. Ryland began to notice the subtler aspects of being Seraphine's mate. He observed her care for her crew, her attention to political nuances, and her unwavering commitment to justice. He also learned patience, diplomacy, and empathy, qualities essential to leadership. Each lesson strengthened the bond between them, a partnership built on mutual trust, respect, and shared purpose. One evening, as the ship drifted near a luminous nebula, Ryland stood on the observation deck, reflecting on his journey. From a simple mechanic on a remote station, he had grown into a human capable of influencing events on a galactic scale. It faced battles, rescued civilians, negotiated with alien diplomats, and uncovered conspiracies. Each challenge had tested him, shaped him, and proven that humans could rise to extraordinary circumstances. Seraphina joined him silently. The stars reflected in her eyes, a reminder of the vast galaxy they traversed together. "Do you understand the importance of your role?" she asked softly. Ryland nodded. "Yes, I see now that being human is not a weakness. Our adaptability, courage, and ability to think independently are strengths, and being your mate. It's not just about connection, it's about trust, responsibility, and partnership." Seraphina smiled faintly. "You are learning quickly? The galaxy will test you further, but I have faith in you. Together, we are capable of extraordinary things." Ryland felt a profound sense of purpose. Each mission, each decision, and each challenge had strengthened him, proving that humans were not insignificant. He had begun to understand that his species' unique strengths, adaptability, courage, ingenuity, and empathy could shape events across the galaxy. And standing beside Seraphina, he felt capable of meeting any challenge as the starship continued its journey through uncharted sectors. Ryland reflected on what lay ahead. More battles, more political intrigue, and more threats awaited. Yet he was no longer afraid. He had grown into his role not through titles or orders, but through courage, intelligence, and action. He had proven himself worthy of the Queen's trust and capable of protecting those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and filled with danger, but Ryland felt ready. He was human, and humans could rise to challenges that others might deem impossible. With Seraphina by his side, he was not just a mechanic or an observer. He was a partner, a strategist, and a protector. And together, they would face whatever trials the universe placed before them as the stars stretched endlessly around them. Ryland allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. He had come far, yet he knew the journey was far from over. The challenges ahead would be greater, the stakes higher, but he was confident. He was no longer just a human in a vast galaxy. He was the mate of the most magnificent queen, a human who could make a difference. And together, they would shape the future of countless worlds.